The original idea for the bridge was proposed by a legislator named Captain John Patrick Coghlan in 1952. Coghlan had done extensive feasibility studies on the possible construction of a bridge spanning the Demerara Harbour, including estimated traffic, tolling proposals, funding avenues, among other things. But Captain Coghlan's work was shelved, but the will to construct a bridge across the Demerara River survived. The man who was tasked with constructing the Demerara Harbour Bridge is now 81 years old, a mathematician, engineer, senior public servant, former general manager of the Guyana Electricity Corporation, poet, and one-time president of the Guyana Public Service Union, Joseph Holder, who spoke to Nightly News about the Demerara Harbour Bridge from the conference rooms to the drawing board to the construction. He said persons who were into hydraulics had done a lot of maintenance work at the embankment of the Demerara River, and it was then an idea was birthed again to have a prefabricated bridge. But because of the novelty of the technology, an overseas-based engineer company that had done some work in Guyana decided to stage a training course in Guyana for engineers on the subject of wide-span bridges. He recalled that one of the lectures that was given was on floating bridges, and that's when, as a young engineer, his curiosity got the better of him, and he started to ask questions.
So at question time, I raised the question, can this technology of floating bridge, which they just lectured to us, can that be used to bridge the Demerara River? And he said, well, I've only been here for 4 days. I haven't even seen the river. Bring the information tomorrow. We'll do it as a class exercise. We assembled next day, and he gave us the design manuals for the highway loading, and then he gave us the price. So we designed the bridge and got the price, except that bridge didn't have retractor span. It looked very attractive, and we are all very stimulated by it, but it was just an intellectual exercise, and most of us went back home and forgot about it.
Mr. Holder described the process as an evolutionary process that started with an idea backed by political will. But what role did then Prime Minister Bonham played in the construction of this bridge, or the idea behind this bridge?
Well, that would reach Mr. Bonham when Thomas Story Engineers Limited, they had a local agent who was Mr. John Jardim, and they asked Mr. John to send up the characteristics of the mouth of the Demerara River to them. And some months later, they submitted a proposal. They designed a floating bridge to span between Houston and Versailles, and this was submitted via Mr. Jardim to the Ministry of Economic Development, which was then headed by Mr. Hoyt, and I assume that went to Cabinet, and that's how that matter came before Cabinet. So it was an evolutionary process which started by a training program in Camphire, Ghana, which ended up in a commercial offer to the government of Guyana. And
Mr. Holder also explained how he got into the state of play. Tell us, what role did you play in all of this? How you came in the picture, and and then later.
Well, apart from being a member of the training program and raising the question of floating bridges across the mouth of the Demerara River, Storage in the offer acknowledged that this was a novel technology. It's not the usual kind of bridge, and that they know that it would be questioned by a lot of people. So they made an offer that the government could send up an engineer of their choice to London to look at examples of this technology that exists and to talk to the engineer who was designing the retractor span. And they would stand the expense of that visit. The matter went to Cabinet, and I was selected to go on that. So my job was to go and look at this thing, talk to the guy designing the retractor. At the time, the retractor was only on drawing board, and to come back and tell the government, including Mr. Bonham, that in my view, humble view, this technology can successfully be used to bridge the Demerara River.
And even so, Mr. Holder explained that early running up to the construction phase, there were some challenges.
When the government at Cabinet level decided that they want to go further, the Ministry of Works was brought into the picture, And 3 senior engineers, one of whom was myself, went with ministry, with Mr. Alsop and others, to look at the site of this bridge. Now, where this bridge was to be located was from the East Bank Road, which is just south of where Banks Brewery is, across the river to Versailles. The harbor master at the time, Mr. Ivan Roman, had indicated that he had approved the location of the bridge as being safe for shipping, because that's one of the concerns you have. When I inspected the site, I thought this was very close to Demerara sugar terminals. And my own personal opinion was that this would involve the risk of ships hitting the bridge while maneuvering to and from that sugar terminal.
The contract for the construction of the Demerara Harbour Bridge was signed on the day of the 10th anniversary of Guyana's independence. That's May 26, 1976. The bridge was commissioned on July 2, 1978 by then Prime Minister Forbes Barnum. The bridge is 6,074 feet or 1,851 meters long. There are 61 spans in the bridge numbered 1 to 61 going from east to west. The first components for the bridge arrived in August 1967. Guyana Stores Limited handed over 3 cranes in November 1976. The assembly of the first flotation was done in March 1977. The construction of the first flotation span number 3 in May 1977. The completion of the high-level span in position in January 1978. Roy Den James, HGP Nightly News.